This is the man at the centre of today's celebrations, but out of habit, Dr. William Bowmore brought along a few gifts of his own in the form of 11 highly prized artworks, including 4 Dobells.
Well, every time I come to Newcastle to the art gallery, I always bring something with me, and it's just like a woman coming to a house, visiting, and she'll bring a bunch of flowers or a cake. Well, I bring paintings.
It's this incredible generosity which led to Dr. Bowmore being presented the Freeman of the City Award. This room at the front of the art gallery was also dedicated in his honour by Governor Marie Bashir. Since 1972, William Bowmore has donated more than 50 works to the Newcastle Region Art Gallery, and his appreciation for world art is represented in his eclectic collection, everything from Rodin sculptures to Sidney Nolan paintings, so many he can barely keep track.
I give things and I forget that I've given them. I went round once, I said, "That's a beautiful painting," and they said, you gave it,
Dr. Bowmore fell in love with Newcastle back in 1935, settling here and later making his fortune as a property developer. He's now a regular visitor to the city, bringing back art from all over the world.
I've always been interested in the arts, and I think with where you live and where you've made your money is where you should be gracious enough to bring back this money.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. This is the view looking east along King Street down to Newcastle Beach, but in a few years' time it could look something like this. A leafy pedestrian corridor flanked by cafes and shops linking the CBD to the sand. It's part of Landcom's vision for the 1.28 hectare Royal Newcastle site overlooking the ocean.
We believe that at this point that it'll be a mixed development, probably predominantly looking at a residential component, and that could vary from service apartments through to residential apartments, maybe even a hotel component.
Hunter Health and Landcom are developing a master plan for the site to be approved by Newcastle City Council.
It's important that people understand that it's not the development application stage, it's much earlier than that.
It's expected the master plan outlining probable height limits and layout will be lodged next month. Landcom is planning to build 3 to 4 stories in the northeast area of the site, up to 16 stories at its highest point. They hope construction will start in 2006. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The Shire is among the recipients of a Silver Award in the 20,000 to 75,000 population category at the International Livable Communities Awards presented today in Canada. Environmental management and enhancement of quality of life contributed to Port Stephens' success. The latest honour comes 12 months after Soldiers Point won gold in the Nations in Bloom competition for livable communities. While there was only around 8 millimetres of rain across the Hunter today, the Weather Bureau is predicting heavy falls that could cause flash flooding during the next 24 hours. We can also expect to be buffeted by 65 to 90 km/h winds. Some Newcastle beaches have already raised the red closure flag, with waves of over 5 metres forecast for the surf zone, and the prospect that beaches along the coast could suffer significant erosion.
and everyone else. You know, it's not only my son, it's they hit that many people around the place. They've done terrible things up in the lawn cemetery to one bloke.
Away from home since April, Olivia Gollan soaks up every minute she can get of life back home. Not that she'd swap her professional career for anything.
It's my lifestyle now, and I really, I've got the best life and I love it, yeah.
And why not? After a year to remember, she's just sealed a deal to join some of World Road Racing's elite.
I've signed with a German professional team next year called Nuremberg, which is arguably the best team in the world.
Joining her is friend and Olympic teammate Anoni Wood, the same person who took Gollan's national title from her last year. She'd love to return the favour in January, but for now it's about relaxing and reflecting on what was a successful year. Her Australian team took out the 9-race World Cup Series, and of course there was that Olympic gold for Sarah Carrigan, which was won off the back of another great team effort and then was celebrated like one.
To be involved in that is an amazing thing, yeah.
Gollan will resume full training in 2 weeks with the Australian titles and World Cup events in mind. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Only the brave and playful ventured out across Newcastle today, and while most did their best to keep the rain off, the Lower Hunters' main catchments were lapping it up.
For us, it's been in the right spots. We've had a lot of rain up on Chichester Dam, which is exactly where we wanted it. We've had a lesser amount of rain on Grahamstown and Tomago, but still enough to make them increase their storage as well.
Hunter Water was close to launching a major water preservation campaign, but the latest falls have helped bolster the region's supply.
We'll be pumping out of the Williams River into Grahamstown Dam, which is our biggest storage. But we're also probably going to find that Chichester Dam, which was quite low, is going to be very close to, if not spilling, it will be close to spilling and therefore very close to 100% full.
The Hunter was today spared the fury of storms that lashed the mid-north coast overnight. At Cardiff, however, an old power pole gave way under wind and rain, bringing wires down across the road and delaying morning traffic. On the coast, rough seas will continue tonight and tomorrow before easing later in the week. We'll have all the latest weather information at 10 to 7. Just look at these little beauties sizzling away. Taste the flavours. Well, it is dinner time and the varieties of snags available these days would satisfy any palate. That's according to judges in this year's Sausage King titles who tasted the Hunter entries in the tough competition today.
Oh, a lot of prestige, a lot of competition, a lot of people really do get a lot out of it. We've heard of increases in turnover with independent butchers by anything up to 30 or 40% if they've won a national title.
Terrace Meats had wins in the traditional Aussie, continental and pork categories. Barnett's Meats and R&R Cellars won the gourmet section. But whatever you do, don't spike your sausages.
Don't pierce them, don't cut them. Just allow them to cook in the casing because what they're allowing to get out is the juice that should be supporting and providing the flavour.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This is no ordinary school garden. It's filled with hundreds of plants to indulge the senses. Everything from lavender to fill the air with sweet scents to strawberries to tantalise the taste buds.
Yeah, it's a sensory garden, so we've got the 5 different senses, sight, taste, smell, feel, touch, like hear and all that. We got some vegetables and herbs growing down there.
Yeah, I think it's really nice because before it was just like a playground and now you can walk around and see all the different plants.
In fact, it's such a unique addition to a primary school that Keep Australia Beautiful has awarded the school first prize in the statewide school environment competition. The students were the major force behind establishing the garden with the help of teachers and parents, with working bees held over many weekends.
Well, last year's Year 6 started it in Parliament and we sort of just took it up and made it better.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
All 28,000 homes and businesses in the Port Stephens Council area would have by now received survey forms for tomorrow's census of a different kind.
The last koala survey was done in 1992, 12 years ago, and we're just attempting to get some sort of idea of the urban koala population using community sighting.
Tomorrow's been dubbed Koala Census Day in Port Stephens, attempting to track one of the most valuable koala communities in the state.
And people can just record their koala sightings on that day, as well as answer the other questions on the survey form about historical sightings and general attitudes to koalas.
Although a drop in numbers has occurred, by just how much won't be known until the results of the survey are in. It marks a shift in koala protection, with the state government along for the ride, announcing today a further recovery plan for the Hawk's Nest and Tea Gardens endangered koala population. A full version of the plan is available online at nationalparks.nsw.gov.au. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
After 15 years as a Blue, this is one Tiger who has changed his stripes. Michael Bevan, now in Tasmanian colours and about to meet his old state on Sunday.
It's a big game for more reasons than one, and it'll be interesting to see how things pan out.
A strained Achilles didn't stop him reaching 50 last weekend, but it does have him facing a fitness test on game day in order to meet his former teammates.
There's not much that they can or can't say that would really have an effect, and I think it's pretty much the same with me.
They're still to get a good look at the pitch, which has been under wraps most of the week. Curator Peter Terry forced into a running battle with storms again today as he tries to ensure another first-class playing surface in time for Sunday's match. More storms are predicted tomorrow afternoon. It didn't seem to bother though the Tigers today. Forced indoors, it was a bit of dodgeball to start the day. After more than 3 weeks on the road, it was a welcome change.
He needs something different every now and then, and this is it today.
The skipper would simply love his own rich form to continue. He comes off a ton against West Australia and another would suit him just fine. His opposition rolls into town tonight. Jim Callanan, NBN News. On top of the table after 3 rounds, it was such a great start to the National Women's Soccer League season for the Pride. But it may have been in vain, should the Australian Soccer Association enforce rules governing international clearances. Technically, former American National League players Cheryl Salisbury, Joanne Peters and Lindsay Jones haven't been cleared from a league that no longer exists. All 3 will stand down starting tomorrow against Victoria until it's sorted out.
Captain and Vice Captain Australia, I'd like to think the Premier Competition Australia would include those players in it, but again we have to abide by the competition regulations and we'll do that.
In League, Clint Newton is abiding by the decision not allowing him leave to play for America in an exhibition game against the Kangaroos next month. It does have an upside though for the young back rower, who served 2 games of a 12-match suspension. The US match, along with 2 trial games, will count, meaning he'll be available for Newcastle after round 7 next season. Knight's teammate and American Samoan George Carmont is under consideration for the American team.
Every year, more than 10,000 Australian women are diagnosed with breast cancer. A fifth of them will die. In an exciting breakthrough, researchers are now sampling breast tumours not only after they are removed, but beforehand, to find out which ones are sensitive and which are more resistant to treatment.
That will help us to target treatments better to the women in whom it can really work well and avoid the cost and the side effects for those women who will not be able to benefit from a particular treatment.
During today's Australia Breast Cancer Day breakfast in Newcastle, the National Research Program, headed by Professor Forbes, was handed $500,000 from Avon, the money allowing vital research to continue.
We already have evidence that this is working. There are targeted therapies produced from models like this that are curing cancers that were hitherto incurable.
And another direction in research is looking at how better communication skills among health professionals can directly affect breast cancer survival rates by focusing on what's important to the patient.
And then to tailor the information to the individual circumstances rather than just trotting out, well, you've got 3 months to live. That's not something people should be hearing anymore.
Soaking up a 1-4 start to the season, the Pirates may have wished for a warmer way to unwind today. Last night they found a hot Sydney Kings, if only for a few minutes. The home side converting a 2-point halftime lead into a 19-point margin by the next change.
I thought it was going to be a grind, and it was, and we won an ugly game.
Again, Brian Weathers stepped up for the Pirates. The import dropping in a game-high 26 as Hunter clawed its way back in the 4th quarter. Kavossi Franklin bombed away 2. The former championship-winning Kings player finding range late in the game, but the damage had already been done in a match they let slip after half-time.
For 3 quarters we played basketball and 1 quarter we didn't, and that's a real concern for us.
The frustration was evident as Hunter remained without an away win, but they do have all week to prepare for another home game against the Brisbane Bullets.
It's no embarrassment to lose to them. Like I said, it's just frustrating when we know that we could just do that a little bit better.
Offence seems to be the homework required this week. Jim Callanan, NBN News. You only had to look at the ground today to see what could have been had last night's rain arrived any earlier. On reflection though, the fact the game got on at all was due to the work of Peter Terry and his ground staff.
I know Ken Clifford would hate to lose him here, but he's top draw.
The first class players, think of him very highly, and we worry we might lose him.
They won't lose the Blues from playing here in the future, even if the local association risks doing some cash on yesterday's game. Just over 3,800 spectators turned out, when almost double that was hoped for.
There are a lot of free tickets given out. We will battle to break even.
Considered a small price to pay for the promotion of first-class cricket, which state officials pledge will return to regional areas next season.
At least 2 Pura Cup games and at least 3 ING games away from Sydney. So that gives us the opportunity to come here on a more regular basis, and that's certainly the aim.
Newcastle has requested a return of a 4-day match next season, but are also moving to build stronger ties on their own representative scene, with matches between Newcastle and the state's second 11 on the drawing board.
We feel that's important in order to retain the good players here.
There are 2 public housing estates in Raymond Terrace. One is Irrawang. In a bid to encourage community spirit in the area, a group of government agencies constructed the Thowalla Family Centre on the grounds of the local primary school.
We're primarily a early intervention prevention service, so we're a one-stop shop basically, where we can offer referral service to families, information, courses.
The centre and accompanying parenting program provide an environment where families can come to talk about difficulties at home and just take some time out. Janice Pollard is a mother of 5 boys. Her youngest is Warren. Through Thowalla, Janice signed up for several TAFE courses. It also helped her settle into the community.
We just moved to the area, so I really didn't know anybody. And they said it'd be a good way to meet people. And so far I've met some really nice people. Helen and Flick have been really great when we've had problems at home.
As well as providing a haven for families, the centre offers short courses such as relationship counselling, behaviour management, self-esteem and nutrition, with the overall aim of improving the family unit. It's open to all families in Raymond Terrace. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
These Indonesian government officials have a hand in running a country of 260 million people. They were in Newcastle today as part of an Australian government-funded program to forge ties between the 2 nations and to help develop the 10 provinces they represent at home.
We wanted to expose them to regional developments and regional business in New South Wales, and so they could learn some of the lessons and pick up some of the hints, and hopefully in the future work with companies and businesses in Newcastle and the surrounding areas.
The group had a tour of Newcastle Harbour to see how the working port contributes to the local economy, but most surprising to the delegates has been the way government and business can work together.
Indonesia will learn so many things from development in Hunter region, particularly in government work, private sector work together.
Well, Newcastle's been through a huge change since the closure of BHP, everybody knows that, and it's regarded generally as a very successful model of government and industry working together, and that's something that they are not used to.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. If you break the law in the future, you'll probably get a good look inside one of these. But for the rest of us, this will have to do. Varley Engineering at Tomago is developing a new generation paddy wagon. But these days they're called prisoner transport modules.
We've had a working party from the New South Wales Police come up and help us with the technical aspects and the functional aspects of trying to make sure the design works and functions and improves on what they've currently got.
The unit, built on a Holden Rodeo four-wheel drive, has several improvements on the old caged truck. 2 side-opening doors prevent officers from standing on the road while loading and unloading prisoners, and smooth internal surfaces limit the possibility of self-harm. The new unit also has a lower centre of gravity for better vehicle handling. 3 companies are developing prototypes for the police, and Varley is hoping to lock up the lucrative deal.
We're hoping to sort of win an order for in excess of 400 vehicles, and that would go well over $3 million in contract value.
When people make errors, perhaps we should be saying, well, letting them clearly know that, and they've got to react to that in the right way.
Until we start winning, there's a lot more I can do, I think.
If you're going to make a point, why not go big? If somehow you hadn't noticed, tomorrow is National Bandana Day. This is just the launch. The Westpac Rescue helicopter was on a different sort of mission this morning, as were the rest of our emergency services, a colourful sign of things to come.
Across the state, ambulance officers have been given permission to wear the bandanas to show the kids that we do care.
Some 241 young people from northern New South Wales are members of Canteen, a not-for-profit organisation helping to make life bearable for those touched by cancer.
Canteen supports, develops and empowers young people dealing with cancer. I've been on camps earlier this year and they run programs as well.
There are many different ways you can wear a bandana, some more subtle than others. It just takes a little creativity. And there's certainly plenty of that. One of Canteen's biggest fundraisers, bandanas are on sale at Woolworths.
A bandana's only $3, so if they get out there and support Bandana Day, it'd be greatly appreciated.
And they're beautiful. All different colours, they're sexy.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Back in the 1950s in Newcastle, it seems it was difficult not to live a healthy lifestyle, with physical activity at the beach and in the backyard a major part of everyday life. But just how much of an impact has that had on Newcastle's overall health? Many of these kids caught on film would now be in their 60s and 70s, and maybe some of the 10,000 Hunter residents about to participate in a major study. The Hunter Community Study will follow participants for the rest of their lives, recording information relating to their health.
We're actually doing a random sample from the electoral roll when we're selecting people aged 55 to 85, and from that we're sending out letters and then following that with phone calls inviting people to actually participate in the study.
Participants will be asked about dietary intake, physical activity and medical history, while thorough medical assessments will also be carried out. The study is the most comprehensive of its kind in Australia.
We're doing a very extensive clinical set of examinations at the front end. We're doing a large range of questionnaires on things like environment, nutrition, health, lifestyle, occupation, a whole range of factors.
It's hoped the study will provide important insights into planning for future healthcare services and will help arm Australians with information to live healthier, longer lives. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
At 90 years of age, Dr. Peter Hendry has published a book with colleague Ian Stanger that looks back on a lifetime of practising medicine in the field of pathology. Young doctors today would cringe at the early methods of giving a blood transfusion.
All they had was an enamel funnel stuffed with cotton wool and a rubber tube, and attached to that was a needle. The sister poured the blood in through the cotton wool and I put the needle into the vein. A little bit different today.
A survivor of the Changi POW camp, Peter came to Newcastle in 1947 to start the blood bank, which is now the backbone of blood supply.
When you needed a donor, you rang up somebody who had their name on the list, you brought them in, checked them, sent their blood and gave it to the donor. That wasn't satisfactory because operations were doing more and more, bigger and bigger operations, and they needed blood on the spot. So that's why we established the blood bank.
Peter later started a private practice which now continues under the name Hampson Pathology. He keeps his own blood pumping by playing regular games of golf. Paul Lobb, NBN News. These young Army reservists are midway through a 4-year traineeship as motor mechanics. Because of difficulties attracting skilled tradespeople to the Army Reserve, the service decided to grow its own. But after completing the nationally accredited course, the trainees have a range of options.
Once they finish this apprenticeship, they're very welcome to stay in the Army Reserve. In fact, we encourage that. But they could seamlessly transition straight across to the regular Army and become fully qualified trade specialists in the regular Army. Or they can just opt out and continue their civilian apprenticeship.
The first group will graduate next year, and the program has been so successful so far in the Hunter and New England that it'll be introduced further afield.
As of next year, the 2nd Division is going to roll the scheme out right across Australia. We're going to have apprentices in Perth, Adelaide, Melbourne, Townsville and the other capital cities.
Army Chief General Peter Lay was in Newcastle to recognise the scheme at a dinner late last week. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Commissioner Moroney was in Newcastle to recognise the efforts of his officers and the assistance they receive from the public. He also acknowledged that the plea coming from Port Stephens for more of his troops has been heard.
I am aware of calls for additional police resources in the area, but you could well imagine I have those requests quite often from right across the state, and we seek to address those requests when and as they arise.
While Tanilba Bay and Lemon Tree Passage residents want a new police station as part of an increased presence, the Northern Region Commander says the issue is in the official spotlight.
And Lemon Tree Passage is one of a number of areas that we are looking at very closely to ensure that the proper facilities are provided, at the same time as offers such as those that are coming out of the council are seriously considered.
In the meantime, Commissioner Moroney wants residents talking with his troops.
And the community and the police working together to provide that very important communication between the two groups. And I think working collaboratively is how we'll all drive down crime.
And any disturbance of the peace over summer will get a swift police response.
As more problems are identified, we'll throw more resources at it, and that could mean resources from adjoining local area commands.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
It's race day in Muswellbrook, and not even last week's hailstorm could dampen the crowd's spirits. Local car dealer Greg Robertson saw $4 million in stock damaged in last Sunday's storm, but today he sponsored a race and was trackside living it up.
What a better spot to be than Muswellbrook and a public holiday that it is here today, so everyone's out just ready to have a great day.
It was a warm day, but that didn't stop more than 5,000 people flocking to the track for the 8-race program.
All the shops are closed, the garages are closed, so they're all here today, and it's a great local support.
Naturally, race day includes fashion on the field, and with $30,000 in prize money for the race meet, horses came from far and wide to compete.
From Sydney, Newcastle, Wyong, just because there's a lot of prize money up for grabs today.
The Muswellbrook Race Club is the oldest race club in the state, and the Muswellbrook Cup is the only race meeting in Australia covered by the TAB on Melbourne Cup Day. And of course, everyone has their own system for choosing a winner.
I just picked a number and first one that came to my head.
And so who did take out the main race? We leave you now with the final stages of the Muswellbrook Cup. On Sunday, November 21, the car park of Energy Australia Stadium will be transformed into a first-class supermoto circuit, complete with dirt tracks, steel jumps and fast tar straights. Riders have described this new sport as the best of both worlds, as they compete on and off-road on a motocross bike with tyres, brakes and wheels modified for the bitumen sections.
It's picked up around the world quite fast. In Europe they've got quite a big series, and also in America, and it's slowly picking up here in Australia as well.
Event promoters are promising an appearance from some of the best riders in the country, including Casey Stoner and Brock Parks. Novocastrian Bobby Tui Moalunga has his last amateur fight this Saturday before turning professional in the super heavyweight division. The 28-year-old has been boxing for just 3 months, and his only other amateur fight was a knockout in the first round.
He's probably one of the best I've seen come out of Newcastle, if not the best, for a long, long time.
Tui Moalunga, who works as a gym instructor, says he took up boxing to enhance his fitness, not because he likes combat sports.
No, you don't need to be an aggressive fighter or aggressive person. Boxing, I find boxing very technical. It's a challenging sport.
Tui Moalunga, who weighs in at 113 kilograms, will fight under the name of Bobby Two Guns. Christine Tondorf, NBN News.
The vehicle came under notice at Raymond Terrace for its manner of driving, and police believe the driver was a disqualified driver, and his erratic manner of driving he needed to be stopped.
Not all these athletes are champions, but there is potential, and the Hunter Academy of Sport has backed them all the way. Each was given $1,000 today to help further their sporting careers, and for sprinter Josh Ross, it's the only scholarship he's ever received.
It's probably been a long time coming, so hard work's starting to pay off.
Based in Seattle, baseball silver medalist Ryan Roland Smith is home for the summer, with the injection of funds proving a timely boost.
It just helps financially, like especially when I'm back here and I'm not getting paid while I'm back here, so it always helps with, if I'm, training equipment.
It's been a big year for swimmer Prue Watt. The 17-year-old, who's vision impaired, bagged a staggering 5 silver medals and a bronze at the Paralympic Games, intending to use her money to help wind down, literally.
Physio, massage, equipment for swimming, possibly some new racing seats.
Racing couldn't be further away from the minds of these swimmers, just finishing a feat in itself. Raising Money for Life Activities, a charity organisation helping the disabled and disadvantaged, some well-known faces formed a composite relay team, swimming the Melbourne Cup distance over 3,200 metres or 128 laps. Proving quite the stayer, local swimmer Ella Crosby swam it on her own, finishing in just under 40 minutes. Adam McKilrick, NBN News. Pirates coach Adrian Hurley has labelled tomorrow night's game as somewhat of a test for his Hunter side, a match with much more to offer than competition points.
If we can go out and have a really good game and get a win over Wollongong, then I think that really sets us up for the run right through to Christmas.
For the Pirates to jump on that wagon though, defence, they claim, is the ticket, hoping to keep Wollongong from breaking into triple figures.
Certainly against the Hawks, that they're a team you have to keep below 100. They've only lost one game this year and they scored 86 points in that game, so they're definitely a team you have to keep below 100.
On the other hand, the Pirates have certainly had no trouble finding points with import Brian Weathers, now the NBL's second highest scorer.
It's good to know that I've got a rhythm going right now, and I'm feeling pretty good, and I like the system we're in, and my players, or my teammates rather, and my coaching staff have a lot of confidence in me to put the ball in the hole.
Central Coast giant Larry Davidson is the only injury concerned with a sprained ankle, one of several members of the Pirates family needing some medical attention.
Tim Allen's wife had a baby yesterday. He's the assistant coach. Next week we've got Geordie Cullen's wife and Russell Hinder's wife all having babies as well.
Adam McKilrick, NBN News. With a swag of wins under his belt already, Vanderlyn couldn't have wished for a better lead-up to tomorrow night's Convatec Cup at Broadmeadow, a qualifying race for next week's Newcastle Mile. With a crack field of national runners expected to front up, Vanderlyn's driver Clayton Harmey will have his work cut out.
This Saturday night, Vanderlyn's taking on Double Identity, a proven top-class horse, and Flashing Red coming down from Queensland. Both of them horses will be in the mile race next week.
The rich Newcastle Mile is one of Broadmeadow's feature events, and Don't Harness racing trainers know it. The club has been inundated with entries, with just a handful earning a start.
I think we're going to have to ballot horses out, which is unusual. We run a field of 10, but I think the quality is going to be that good that some real good horses are going to miss a run.
And good news for Northern New South Wales Pride, losing no points for a registration mix-up in the Women's National Soccer League. As such, Pride remains on top of the table going into this weekend's double-header, meeting New South Wales in Sydney tonight. They then host Queensland on Sunday afternoon. Adam McKilrick, NBN News. With tradition in mind, officers from HMAS Cessnock must seek permission to march through the city. In this case, it was Lower Hunter Commander Charles Haggett to give the okay. They led the march, taking pride of place down a newly renovated Vincent Street, followed by others who have done so time and time again. Bestowed freedom of entry to Cessnock, it basically means they've been given the keys to the city. But it's the city which wants the keys to their vessel, scheduled for decommissioning next year.
What we're trying to do is to get the whole of the patrol boat up here in Cessnock, put it in a park and make it an everlasting memorial to HMAS Cessnock.
An ambitious project which is yet to be costed or given the go-ahead by the federal government.
Some people say it can't be done, but we reckon it can.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Kilgore Avenue, Merriweather, was shut down just before 11 a.m. as emergency crews and neighbours treated a young woman suffering from serious burns. She and a 20-year-old man had been asleep inside their house. They woke to find it filled with smoke and flames. The pair forced their way out as neighbours came to their assistance.
A couple of people out through the window in front of the house here that was well lit by the time we got here. Still shaking. I never sort of done anything like that before, but yeah, it's just shaking around a bit.
Luckily enough, a woman walking past happened to be a doctor and helped administer first aid to the 20-year-old woman suffering from burns before she was taken to the John Hunter Hospital. The young man was also taken to hospital, suffering from cuts and smoke inhalation. Neighbours were relieved that fire crews arrived minutes after the alert was raised and took less than 5 minutes to put the flames out.
Brilliant. Can't say enough for the fire brigade. Well done, Japs.
Police say the fire started in the lounge room and was largely contained to the front of the old house.
The cause of the fire is unknown at this time. It's under investigation.
The good news, 2 ducks living in the house escaped injury. Todd Nardi, NBN News. With Wollongong backing up from a Friday night match, the Pirates picked the perfect time to attack the Hawks. And did they ruffle some feathers? Hunter forward Russell Hinder not to be intimidated by Wollongong star import Adam Ballinger. And Hinder's 18-point contribution was crucial in what turned out to be the Pirates' first ever victory against Wollongong.
We know how to win now, so it's all easy sailing, mate.
It was a night of milestones, the Pirates scoring consecutive victories for the first time ever. Brendan Mann took his NBL career tally to 1,000 points, Brad Davison making his 2,000. A tired-looking Wollongong were uncharacteristic, missing as many shots as they landed, but that removed no gloss from the Pirates' performance.
Every team in the league has to back up after 2 nights, so that doesn't take much, if anything, away from our win.
A spectacular miss from Brian Weathers couldn't dislodge a smile from the Pirates' top scorer, his side defeating the premiership favourites by 9 points.
The Very Reverend Graham Lawrence has walked the grounds of Newcastle's Anglican Christchurch Cathedral for some 20 years with little fear of being attacked. But that all changed late yesterday when police claim a man entered the cathedral asking members of the clergy for money. When they refused, he went to the Dean's residence.
He came to my door, asked for $50. I told him I wasn't able to give him $50. I didn't actually have $50, but that I would give him food.
The bruises on his face tell the rest of the story, bashed and threatened with his life. Today he leaves this fairly tame message for his attacker.
I think I'd tell him he would be really good if he got himself some help and if he learned how to control his anger and find a useful life. That would be wonderful.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
They're a frontline force in supporting life's great miracle.
I think it must be the most rewarding job.
But midwives are continuing to leave the profession.
New midwives are dropping out of the profession immediately because they're so dissatisfied with their working conditions.
Stemming the exodus was one of the key issues at the New South Wales Midwives Association's annual conference in the Hunter Valley. The association says there needs to be more midwifery-led birth models, and health professionals say that is now happening in some new programs.
The midwife follows the woman through the antenatal period, births the woman and then takes her back out into the community and follows her up for up to 6 weeks.
Education of midwives is also an issue.
We're losing a lot of potential midwives because they have to do nursing first. It's a clash of ideologies of illness and injury and wellness care.
There's progress in this area with a new Bachelor of Midwifery course to be offered for the first time in New South Wales from next year.
I think it will be a great boost to the numbers. Wherever they've had direct entry, they've been flooded with applicants.
The course will be offered at Sydney's University of Technology. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
They may look like your average carpenters, delivery man or even neighbours, but police are warning it's these very people who are preying on houses under construction. They're taking just about anything they can get their hands on, including white goods, building products, fixed kitchens, laundry tubs and even windows and doors that have already been fitted.
It happens every day, every night, every weekend. So Mondays is always a bad day to go to work.
It's a problem that's frustrating builders, with hundreds of break and enters being reported every year in the Lower Hunter. While many homeowners and builders are covered by insurance, this type of crime has far wider implications, forcing premiums to rise. Colin Jacks has seen his excess more than quadruple in recent years and says he's lost count of the times his building sites have been targeted. It seems finding the culprits is where the challenge lies for police, with most goods never recovered.
Knowing where the property goes to is difficult. That's a difficult area to police. It's more easy for us to target if we're aware of the crime occurring.
Colleen West, NBN News.
It didn't take long for Northern New South Wales to show just why it's leading the competition, and before too long, Pride found its first. 16-year-old Beth Commode kicking off what would be a game to remember. Queensland tried to take the shine off Pride's lead but couldn't keep the pace, Northern New South Wales launching into gear, giving the visitors a real scare. The Maroons' goalie, though, scrambled to save this attempt, restoring confidence with Queensland now on equal terms. A one-on-one battle failed to give either team the upper hand. That was until a big kick with pinpoint accuracy found the boot of Katie Gill, setting up Beth Commode to score a second. A mighty effort by Queensland pushed the game back into deadlock, and that's where it stayed. Both teams well on their way to the final series. Although other teams have played just 4 and 5 matches, Northern New South Wales maintains a strong lead after 6 games on target for a top 2 finish. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
It's a vigil now into its 6th night. Elaine Vitnell is waiting by the phone for news on her missing husband, Alan. The 72-year-old, who walks regularly to control his diabetes, went for a stroll last week and is yet to return.
Normally he returns within an hour or two, but for whatever reason, Alan hasn't returned last Wednesday, and it's now 6 days, and it is concerning us very greatly.
2 neighbours have told police they saw Alan in the Cessnock shopping centre last Wednesday afternoon. Elaine Vitnell believes her husband wouldn't have strayed from his normal circuit. Before Alan went walking, he'd been working in the backyard. Police believe a sudden illness could be one reason why he never completed his walk.
We are concerned that he may have become ill. He may be disorientated or something like that, and not quite know where to go or how to get home.
Having known Alan since childhood, Elaine just wants her husband home.
If anybody knows him and sees him, please ask him to get in contact with me or the Cessnock Police.
Alan Vitnell is described as being tall, thin, with balding grey hair. He was wearing shorts, shirt, a baseball cap and black and silver coloured joggers. Gary Blair, NBN News.
It was the perfect recipe for crashes, and there was certainly plenty of them. Mother Nature didn't go easy on the 100 riders who hit the Bellbird track, with heavy winds testing even the more experienced competitors. Here's one manoeuvre that definitely shouldn't be attempted in your own backyard. And while he may have found favourable ground, many others found dirt and lots of it. On ground that wasn't quite as dusty, Anthony Summers set a course record to claim victory in the Branxton Pro-Am, which wrapped up last night. Summers won the 36-hole stroke event by 7 shots, ahead of fellow Sydney-siders William Wright and John Onions. In the women's division, US LPGA Tour player Cherie Burns walked away with a convincing win. To harness racing, and a Sydney duo has taken out the feature race at the Newcastle Paceway. Here are the final stages of Saturday night's $50,000 Newcastle Mile. Nathan Giles held off his rivals to drive Hexus to victory. Colleen West, NBN News.